Good morning. Welcoming you guys to yoga this morning. Let's give you a minute or two to join us. So we are live doing some yoga, some gentle movement to ease your hips this morning. Morning. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. You're all coming in thick and fast. That's good to see. I hope you're all well. Please give us a shout. Morning, Karen. Hi, Nando. Hi, Mary. Okay, so we're looking at hips today. Hi, Alan. So one piece of advice for you, really simple one, is if you want to ease stiffness in your hips, the best thing to do is get down on the floor and move around a little bit every day. Sounds quite simple, doesn't it? But it's one of those things that we quite often forget to do. Hi there, Jenny. So I'm going to show you a few things that you could do as ideas today for moving around on the floor. But one of the easiest ones is when you sit down to watch TV, sit down on the floor rather than sit down on a sofa or on a chair. And just by moving around on the floor, you're going to help keep those hips mobile. Hi there, Simon. Glad you can join us. Right, okay, so all you need today is a mat of some sort. I've got a bit of a bigger space today because we are going to move around. So if you've got that wider space, fantastic. If you're squeezed in between the sofa or something like that, then we might just have to adjust the poses a little bit to fit you in. Hi there, Michelle. Okay, and then perhaps a blanket and a cushion if you need that as well. So we're going to start lying down on our backs while a few more may join us. So take yourself down onto your back with the knees bent, feet flat on the floor. Just rest your hands somewhere around the belly area. Take a little sigh. Let yourself settle into the floor and take a moment to arrive. So even if you are already at home, you've been nowhere, it still is just nice to arrive here on your mat, arrive here in your body. And just setting that intention for the next half an hour to really focus and keep your attention on what's going on in your body and what's going on with your breath. And trying to forget everything else that's going on around you. So let the breath settle, closing the mouth, breathing in and out through the nose, just light breathing. Perhaps connecting to the movement of the breath in the belly area. And then to start moving, we're going to just straighten out one of the legs and then lift your other knee up towards the chest, just grasping your hands around the knee or the shin and gently squeeze and release that thigh in towards your chest. So the area right up here at the top of the thigh might feel a bit tender, and that's because when we spend a lot of time sitting, that whole area is just fixed in position and it can get tight, but also it can just become sore from not having moved anywhere else for such a long period of time. So that's why this advice of just getting down on the floor and moving regularly in the day is so healthy for your hips, because it just allows the hips to move in all of the different ranges of motion that you have available. So just squeeze and release a little bit on the hips on the other side. That's it. And then we'll lift both legs up. Just shake your legs up towards the ceiling for a moment. Pop the feet down. And then you're just going to start to explore some movement of your hips. So just rocking the hips from side to side. And just checking in with how that feels. And then there's a subtle movement where we're tilting the pelvis forwards and backwards. So as you tilt your pelvis forwards, can you feel that a little gap appears under your lower back? And as you tilt the pelvis back, the whole of the lower back gets drawn into the floor. So there's a forward and backwards movement of the pelvis. Can you tune into that? And then can you lift the hips off the floor a little bit and start to move the hips around, so maybe like a figure of 8. A little hip wibble and wobble. So it's quite early in the morning. Some of you keen folks may have already been out for a run, but the rest of us may have only just got out of bed. So it's really nice to warm yourself up a little bit here. Okay, so popping the hips back down to the ground, just rest your arms out to the side and taking a breath in here. Just allow both of the knees to fall to one side as you exhale. Breathing in back to the middle and then breathing out, knees go to the other side. So just in tune with your own breathing, breathing out, knees go to one side, breathing into the middle, breathing out, going to the other side. So keep the flow of breath through the nose as much as you can, exhaling out to the sides. So this is really lovely for just opening the lower back as well. Breathing into the middle, breathing out as you drop the knees to the side. So we'll just do one more either side. And coming back to the middle when you're ready. So just finding your foundation through your feet so that your heels are quite close in towards the buttocks now, and you've got the feet parallel, thighs parallel. And we're going to take a breath in and just lift up into a bridge position. So you're lifting your hips up towards the ceiling. Little bit of a squeeze in the buttocks here. Take a breath in, and then as you breathe out, just bringing the spine back down to the floor. So we'll just do that a couple more times. Easing yourself up, squeezing the buttocks, taking a breath in as you're up here. And then breathing out, coming back down. And last one. Nice breath in at the top, squeezing the buttocks. Release that squeeze and exhale. Bringing yourself down. Okay, so last of the movements while we're on the back. If you take one of your ankles and just rest it just below the knee on the opposite leg. And then we're going to lift that thigh up, hook the hands behind the back of the thigh. So we're now in what we call the supine pigeon, a little bit of a pretzel position for the legs. But we're just easing the whole of that sort of triangle that we've created with the legs in towards the chest. And hopefully you can feel that there's a little bit of hip stretch, hip opening here on the hip of the bent knee. So a little bit of just squeeze and release, just checking in with how that feels. So often a very sore and tender spot for a lot of people. And then just release, shake the legs a little bit. We'll do the same over to the other side. So hooking the hands around the back of the thigh, and then just a gentle squeeze and release here. Keep the breath flowing, light through the nose. And then release again, just give those legs a little shake. You might want to just rock on the spine a few times. And then pop your feet down, and we're going to roll to one side and bring ourselves up to a sitting position with the legs out like this. Okay, so the next movement we're going to do is a little bit of a flow, and we're going to move around the floor, and that's why I said it's good to have a little bit of space. And the reason why I think this is quite important is the movement itself, the rolling around on the floor that we're going to do, is a little bit like a massage for the muscles and for the fascia. So it's a little bit like foam rolling, but on the floor. So I do hope that you've got some kind of a rug or a carpet. And I'll go reasonably slowly, but once you get the hang of this kind of movement, you can do this on your own, at your own speed. Just be mindful of the breath as you do it. So the first movement we're going to do, I'm just going to move this one out of the way, is from this sitting position, is just to bring ourselves back down to the floor. So what we're going to do is just gently roll ourselves down onto the floor. And then sweeping the arm across, bring ourselves back up and doing the same again. So rolling onto the floor and sweeping yourself back up. And we'll do one more that side. And sweeping yourself back up. Coming up to this position with the hips, because it's a really nice opening for the hip joint. So we can do the same on this other side. Rolling yourself down onto the floor and sweeping yourself back up. And we'll do one more. Just rolling onto the floor and sweeping yourself back up. Okay, so from this position now, can you turn to face the direction of this front knee? Lift up and straighten out the back leg. So now we're coming into a pigeon position where the lower leg is at a 45-degree angle. And you can either stay here if that's enough for you, or take a deep breath out and stretch the arms forward. Take a breath in and release. And then on the breath in, coming back through. Dropping onto the bottom. That leg that was behind now comes out straight in front. Sole of the foot in towards the thigh. Taking a breath in and breathing out. Just gently exploring, moving the hands along the leg. Keep the breath flowing. So at the moment my chest is over the leg. I'm going to now bring my chest to face out towards the space in front of me. And because I've got my right leg out, my right hand is just here. I'm going to grab hold of my toe. So I've got this rotation in the chest, and then you can either just bring your hand to your shoulder on the uppermost, take your gaze up towards the ceiling, and enjoy that twist and stretch for the chest. You could also reach that top arm over. And then on your next breath in, reaching up, bringing the hands back down to the floor. And then we're going to rest into this backhand. Lift up the hips, press the hips forward. So now we're on the front knee, and again you can bring the hands over, but the key thing is to press those hips forwards if you can. And again, keep that breath flowing. And releasing as you breathe out. So we can sort of add those four poses together into a little bit of a flow. So we'll do the same on this side before we go to the other side. So from this position, we'd be rocking forwards into our pigeon, taking a breath in Breathing out. Breathing in, coming back up. Straightening the leg. Breathing out, folding forwards. Breathing in, coming back up. Breathing out as you press the pelvis forwards. And then breathing in to come back down. So that's quite a nice little flow that once you get the hang of, you can start to introduce that into your own movement. So let's swing the legs round to the other side. Okay, so from here we're moving into our pigeon. So lifting up onto that front knee, back leg is straight, either resting here or take a breath in and stretch out as you exhale. Just taking a breath in here and out, and then breathing in, bringing yourself back into position. And we're going to take the leg out in front, sole in towards the thigh, breath in, tall spine, exhale, fold forwards. Just resting here for a few light breaths. And then again, I've got my chest over that front knee, so I'm going to rotate the chest now, hook my fingers around that leg, put my hand onto the other shoulder as I look up towards the ceiling, or extend the arm overhead. And breathing in, release that top arm, and with that back arm now as support, we're going to lift up, press the hips forward and take the arm overhead. So the key here is to press the hips as far forward as you can, so you're feeling this extension here in the front hip. And releasing down. Okay, so again we can knit 4 of those ones together. So beginning from our leg position, taking a breath in into a pigeon, breathing out, folding forwards, breathing in, coming back up. Breathing out, folding over the straight leg. Breathing in, lift up. And then breathing out, pressing the pelvis forward. And coming back down to rest. Okie doke. So from here, we're going to come onto all fours. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And all we're going to do here is just rock forwards and backwards. So it's nice for the hips to do this. It's also really good for the wrists because it creates just a novel movement that we wouldn't normally do in the day, just to strengthen around the wrists. And sinking the hips down. So for some of us, if the hips are really tight, trying to bring the bottom down to the heels can be a little bit of a struggle. So this is a really nice movement where there's no force, there's no weight, you're just gently exploring the hips down to the bottom. Okay, so from here, we're going to come up now onto our knees. So just make sure there's a little bit of padding under your knees here, especially if you're just on the carpet or on a rug. And all we're going to do is just pop the hands behind with the fingers pointing down. to support the lower back. And all I want you to do is just focus on pressing the pelvis forward and perhaps taking your gaze up to the ceiling, but no more of a back bend than that position. So we're just thinking about this whole area here at the front of the hips getting a push forward, so squeeze through the buttocks as you do that. And then coming back up to a straight position. So next, taking one of your feet forwards. Just trying to see you can see me. So ideally we want to have the shoulder, the hip and the knee in one long line on this side. So, and then in this position, all we're going to do is, in time with your breath, every time you breathe in, we're squeezing the buttock on this side, and when you breathe out, you release. So it's a squeeze, breath in, release as you breathe out. And again, it's working to open up the front of the hip, the bit that gets tight or sore from sitting. And it's also teaching or reminding your glute that it needs to fire when the hip is in extension like this. And that's one of the key movements we need for our walking and for running. So squeeze and release. Okay, so when you've maybe done around about 10 of those, we're going to bring this position now into a bit more of a traditional runner's lunging. So this leg now is at a bit of an angle, but rather than sort of collapse into it, lift the upper body and just rest the hands on the knee. Again, we're feeling this opening in the front of the hip flexor on that back leg. So steady breath here. And then taking it a little bit deeper. So I'm going to move round to this position. So walk your foot out to the edge of your mat now so that you've got space to take both of the hands to the inside. And from there we're going to lower down as if you're trying to bring your forearms down to the ground. So it's quite strong hip opening here. So the intention is to try and bring the chest low. Many of you won't be able to bring the forearms down to the ground, and that's totally fine. Just work on that intention to sink the chest down so that you're really feeling that the hips are being challenged to just move in a novel way. A different way from what they're used to. And remember to keep breathing. And we're going to ease back from that. Keep the heel of that front leg out in front. Lift the toes. And just sink your weight back until you feel a stretch through the whole of the back leg. That's it. And then we're going to take that leg that's out in front now and sweep it all the way round, as far round as you can get to the other side. Now this is really nice for the IT band, if anyone has tightness here. So I'll just show you that again. From the front, you're taking it all the way around as far as you can to the other side. And you can take your gaze to that foot. The foot is now resting on the top. There we go, so that's a really nice one. And then back to your kneeling position. So we're going to do the same to the other side. So, that's the other side, isn't it? No, it was that one. So the shoulder, hip, knee is in alignment, just popping the other foot forward for some support. And then we are breathing in, squeezing into the glute, and release as you breathe out. So as you squeeze it, breathing in, as you release, breathe out. This is one of the best little exercises you can do to offset the hours that you spend sitting in a chair. Reminding the glute that it needs to fire when the hip is in extension. Squeeze and release. Okay, so maybe around 10 of those squeezes and releases, and then we'll just shift forwards into a lunge with the back leg a little bit more at an angle, but keeping the lift here in the chest, just resting a hand on the knee. And then from here, we're coming down, taking the foot wide so you can bring both of the hands to the inside, and then exploring dropping the chest down towards the floor. So again, there's an intention to lower the chest. Your forearms may reach the floor, they may not, doesn't matter. It's all about the journey, the direction of travel, and feeling that the hips are just being invited to move in a different way. Okay, and then coming back up, we're then going to shift our weight back until we feel the back of that front leg open up. And then again, from here, taking the front leg, you're going to swing it all the way around the back, as far around as you can go. Just slightly off camera, there we go, all the way around. I'm now resting on the top of my foot, sinking weight into the hip and just feeling that stretch across the hip, IT band. And then release. Okay, so we're just going to finish with a little bit of time in a child's pose. So with the big toes together, knees wide, resting yourself down, chest or forehead to the floor. So again, this is a really nice position for the hips. Really lovely recovery. And also invites you to come back to your breath. So not only can you feel the expansion in the lower ribs and the belly as you breathe in, but you could also tune into the expansion of the back ribs when you breathe in, because a large amount of our lung surface is actually in the back of the body. So feeling the expansion of the back ribs as you breathe in, and the relaxation as you breathe out. The breath in being active and the breath out being passive. So just taking a couple more breaths here. And when you're ready to move, just nice and slowly bring yourself up to any comfortable sitting position. And keeping the eyes closed if you still can. And bring the palms together, just give those palms a rub. And then with the hands at the heart, just drop your forehead down to your fingertips. And this is bowing to yourself. A big smile inside for you, taking this time out to move, breathe, rest. A big smile inside, a big high five, gratitude for you. And then when you're ready, lifting the head, opening the eyes to come back to our little yoga virtual studio. Thank you very much, guys. Namaste. I hope that your hips are now going hip hip hooray. They may not, they may be going what the hell just happened, but keep moving on the floor. Even if you're watching TV, doing your work, eating dinner, just keep sitting on the floor, moving around as much as you can, and your hips are going to love you for it. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Thanks there, Julie, Jeanette. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I shall see you here again next week. Thanks very much, guys. See you. Bye.